Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. I'm Alex and Tuna, and today I'm going to continue on this model I've started. So I did work on this model. I didn't record it because there was a lot of back and forth. I know you don't want to watch that. I have a decimated model. This model, I'm going to solo it out. This one is going to be to bring into Toolbag and then use the poly paint to project onto it. It should have a texture. Where your texture? And I'm going to export. I exported this out just for the colors. The details and all the cavities, we're going to use that from this mesh. But if it's not enough detail, because if I go into Blender, if I'm going to pull in Blender, you can start to see a little bit of the faceting on the model, and it's not too bad. It's okay, but you can start to see some stuff going on. Other than that, I'm gonna close down Zbrush because I don't think I need to jump into here for now. I need to grab a few things. I need to grab the eyes, and those can be done in Zbrush, or not Zbrush, Blender. And then I need the teeth. These can just be exported as is, so I can get those. And those can actually just be textured as needed and unwrapped. But I'm not really focused on that today. What I like to do is just start out with something simple to show and go from there. So we're going to go with this. I'm going to close ZBrush so I don't have enough. So I'm not lagging on resources. I know this one is it was stuttering a while ago, but I have OBS recording and then Blender, and then I'm going to open up this, and we're going to go ahead and import this file. So anybody new to Toolbag, it's pretty straightforward. We're going to grab our model. Let's import our model. Let me grab a model real quick. Let's see where we go. Okay, so we're going to grab the high and the low. So I'm going to grab the high one first, bring it in, see how it looks, and then we'll go from there. There's going to be a few steps that I might make to make this work. We now have our model in here. You can start to see a little bit of jaggedness, and it looks like there's two models in here. It did bring both. I didn't really want to export both of these as one, so let's remove that. So when I export, go to here. I'm going to go to decimated, export, and go to here, and FBX. I made a little folder called Toolbag, and we're going to go to the high. It's a decimated. We're going to go selected here. That's why I didn't do it. I had it probably checked off. Export. As that one goes, I'm going to grab the next one, and then we'll put that back into Toolbag. So we'll grab this, and nope, that's the light. We don't need a light in here anyway. I don't know. Oh, wrong one, wrong button. Deletes. And we don't need that either, just in case it carry over. Turn this on. Export. So let me go and show this real quick. So I did unwrap it inside of ZBrush. So if we look at it, you can see it's pretty dense. It's doing all right. What I can do is, let's see, we can take a look at it. I'm gonna go here. Oh, wrong button. Turn off that. Oh, wrong button. Select. Now I can do it. Sorry. And you can look at it's pretty even. Topology. It's going around. ZBrush does a pretty decent job, so I'm pretty happy with it. It's better than me going in one by one, doing a loop, going all around here, cutting it. It's a lot of time, and if I'm only use this for kind of like I guess you'll see when I'm done. But in my mind, I know what I need, and you gotta weigh how you're gonna use your models, and that's usually how it goes. You gotta just play it by ear. Not every project's the same. Not every project, will have, no two projects are alike from my experience. There's always going to be something, and you're like, either it's going to be a rush job or you got to get it done as fast as you can by a deadline, and those tools help. Or you don't really need to spend that much time, and you can use those tools just to get you halfway, you know, or a lot of ways there, and then you're pretty happy with whatever you get. And we're going to see what happens. We're going to go ahead and go with this. So we're going to go back and import. So that's the first thing you'll do is import your model. If you don't know import, there's also this right here, this little option right here. Click that. We're going to grab our high poly model, and it should be just one model again. Okay, let's look at it. A lot better. It doesn't have two models and everything else in it, so it's alright. A lot of our details. We're going to import the tongue, the teeth, and the eyes later on, but right now for this lunch session, I just wanted to get something out and show. So let's get in here. Let's import our low poly. You can import both as long as they're named correctly, and it'll do a job for you, but just doing it this way kind of shows the basic function of breaking it down. Okay, so we have our high and our low. If I were to turn off the high, you can see that we got our low poly model in here. Go to your wireframe. You can see the same model that I had in Blender that I exported. The same model. We have both of them in here. So you're wondering why, if you're new to 3D and you're wondering about a high to low bake and why you would do it, it saves you your resources. So some computers won't be able to handle that many polys, and I might bring in a higher poly model just to get more detail, but for now I want those colors, and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna bring this in here, bring this there. For now I need to grab the texture back onto the high poly. Turn this off, turn this on. Where you at, buddy? There you are. So make sure your materials are named correctly. That one's named low, and that was decimated model. I'm gonna grab the texture that I made. Let me see if I made a map for it. Yeah, I did. So I'm gonna go ahead and go into the decimated texture here, and I'm just gonna drag. I've got my exported model from Zbrush. When you bring stuff from Zbrush, you usually gotta flip the Y. So that's one thing about going from Zbrush. I have two files there because one of them was accidentally did a JPEG. So now you can see this was from Zbrush. What I did was use the poly paint to texture or something like that. I can open up Zbrush again if we need to, but this should be fine. So we're going with that. Just kind of look around. Got a lot of that detail back in there. The color's a little bright. Let's see if this changes the color space. Nah, that didn't help. I don't need bit maps. So we're gonna bake it. We're gonna go to bake all this polygon details onto the other creature. I think I lost a little bit of the high poly. And what I'll do is probably do a separate bake with the higher poly one, and then use those details back into another model. But let's go ahead and go with the bake. Let's just show what's going to go on here. We're going to go down to the bottom. We're going to up the resolution to be pretty decent. This right here is your texture project. This allows you to paint onto the new bake. So we're going to make a new project, and usually I'll bring it back in. So there it is. You saw it pop up right here. And when it bakes, all these little channels will be filled up, and then all the other little details, as you do details in here, will be filled in here. Pretty cool. Okay, let's go ahead and do an export. Let's save this output. Let's do an output for this. So I'm going to make into maps, and we can just name it body for now. Simple, right? Already know there's nothing else in this folder. Go in here, and we can name it Kaiu body color, just for color, because we're going to project that down. And try to grab some of the other details, but I think for now, it took me a long time to find the happy medium to get to this point, and then I had to retopo the eye and all that detail. So right now let's turn off the high poly. This is that little button right here will toggle, and you can turn on the low poly right here. So this is a low poly that we're going to bake to. What I usually do is check the curvature, check the ambient occlusion, go into here. Now we got all this cool stuff. You can get the height. I'm not going to use this height here because it's going to use it as a displacement map, but I don't want what's currently being created because it's not as pretty. Like I said, it was decimated pretty low, and I just wanted it for the texture purposes. We're going to go with diffuse, albedo right here. Well, albedo, not diffuse. Whatever you want to call it. Everybody's calls different things. So, what else we got? And we can go with that. Let's close this down. And you can see right here that it added that right there. We're going to go to bake. Hopefully it don't take too long. Usually it doesn't take real long at all. It's going to project all the high detail back onto this low poly mesh. And this is just another step process. I was going from Zbrush, going to Blender to get the smoothing groups, because if you don't have smoothing turned on, and if you don't do it, Zbrush won't do it for you. So you're going to have to go in another program and do it. As I've noticed, it makes a big difference. So it's baking the ambient occlusion, and then next it'll bake the curvature and everything else. So we'll have a folder for that. Let me pull up that folder. You'll start to see that it's here, and you can see we got this, all the curvature, the normals, the AO, that's good to have, and the last one is the albedo. It's going to be that color map right here, and it should drop it all in there. As long as your materials are named correctly, it should pull to the correct area. So now you can see I pretty much got what I had in ZBrush. Needs a little let's look at the environment. Let's change this environment, see what else we can get. What I like is that there's a little library for HDR, and usually want to get a good balance, because if you're going to put it in darker lighting, you'll see that it's going to be a little different. So just try different ones. You can start to see that it's affecting it a little differently. And this is all low poly. If I turn on the wireframe, all those details are being projected onto there. But what I'd like to do is get to do a bump map, so I can use that for displacement. For now, we got pretty good detail going on, and I don't want to lose too much. So what I might do is go back and so if I push Control R, this should turn on the lighting. But let's see. Oh, so now you can start to see it's got shadows. If you have it on draft, it won't do it. You gotta turn it on full quality. You can push Control R, and then you can turn it off and on. Little hotkey. You can go to the website. They got more hotkeys for it, but it's pretty cool to see all the details. You start to see profile of the monster, and hopefully this is low enough to get a rig going so we can animate it and maybe have some fun with it. I don't know, I just want to have a little fun with a model and give it something. Anybody new to Toolbag, this is a fun program. It's really pretty user friendly compared to just like too many options. It's got, you know, your core, what you need, the essentials. So if you really need to, if you need to fine tune your lighting, we can go to the sky here, and then you can click anywhere on here and it'll pick that color that you select. So let's say for instance I picked that, and if we were to look around, let's see, we can get that light, and we'll go to perspective. We should be able to see that light somewhere. Oh yeah, I turned off helpers. Show guides. So that light is right there in the middle. We can grab that with this, and we can push it out, and then you can see that we have a light, a little spotlight there, and that works. And you can rotate it, give it a rotation, start moving it around, and then you gotta, this is just if you need to get a little bit more, information, or a little more control with what you're doing. We can turn this to world space so it's not at a weird angle, and then just kind of push and pull and go around. You can rotate, and then you can start to see, add a little light. If you don't like that color, you can select the color, and we can turn it green, purple. You can start to see, get a little bit more of a mood. So you give it there, and there you go. And then if you rotate it, since it's a child of this, if you hold shift and right click, it'll go with it. So it goes around with it too. So it's pretty neat. Like that. Don't really need a light, but I just wanted to show anybody who is new to this. I'm just kind of taking my time. Not in a hurry, just showing what I'm going process for this and getting it going. So now you're like, well, I wanna start texturing on here. It's like, cool. That's why we're in here. So let's go into the layers. What I mentioned though, if I do export a higher res, I'm going to do it off not recording because it's a long process and it's kind of boring. But what I'm going to do is grab a new normal. I'll make a new normal and I'll call it higher, and then I'll put it back in the slot. You can always drag in new information if you need to. You can even preview this. You can see what it looks like. All these channels are available to turn on. So that's pretty cool. You can turn them off. And then if you want to add some materials, we can go in here. So now this is where we start to get a little bit more detail. So the normals will stay, and all the other curvatures and all the other detail. If you really want to start like bumping it up there. So I guess to explain it, you still have a root, a main texture here, and this still kind of like channels back down to the original. The only reason that didn't a while ago, because this is a fill layer and it overrode, it should have overridden what was there. So if I were to go in here, it should affect this model. You see it's a little more slimy looking. It gives a little more he look like he's wet, and you can go up and down. This is more of the base. You can reset it right there, put it at 0. The metalness, if you want to turn it up and down, it's got a texture slot in there, so we can turn that off. So now you can start to see that he's really metallic looking right there, right? And the reason why, I guess, since we had maybe metalness turned on, you can always turn it off. But this will be overridden. The only thing that's tricky to override is the occlusion, but the occlusion is always going to be there. So we can double up that information. Go to the layers. So now we can do an override, and you've got all the other options. Let's close this up. That's a little UV window, and you have all these that you can turn on, these override whatever you have. So if I go up, you're back to where you started. But what if you don't want all of this in there? You're going to go to the fill layer and you add a mask. This is a paint mask, so you can paint where you want it. It's a color mask. It'll just apply it as a color, and you can apply like a gradient or something in there, and just fill mask, and it'll fill the whole color. But the paint mask, I'll put black. If you put white, it'll apply it. So we're going to push black, and so you see it disappeared. So what happened was, you select the paint layer. Now if I were to go in and paint, and I need to turn off the render settings, but now you can start to see that it's actually painting on the object. So you go in here, start to get some detail, and if you wanted to, you can change this color. Go back to here. Color can be a different color, so you can give them a red, or you can change it. And this is where I wanted to be. We want to start getting into the texturing and stuff. You can change the roughness of a certain area. Say for instance that armor looking shell plate, we can put that on a certain area. If we wanted to show through, you got mixing modes, so you can also show all the way through, so that you don't lose everything completely. And you just find the one that you're needing to work with. You can even drop this down. You just want to put a little bit in there. You can do that. So you can go back into here. If you click it, it'll close up. Double click open. You can right click clear. So if you were to want to paint on these, you can paint this. can start changing the look of what we wanted in here. What I'll probably do is get a new scene. Since I've got this as a separate bake, I want to bake two different things. I wanted to get more detail back into here. The other thing is, so this is one bake. The other bake, I'm going to bring in a higher poly mesh so that I don't have to worry about the poly paint. I just really wanted poly paint. I didn't want to lose what we did in Zbrush, and it seems like, you know, it did a little bit of work to get there, and I didn't want to lose that. So we can always apply gradient curves. You can change the hue, saturation, and drag this on top of that color, and then now you got more stuff to adjust. And it just really depends on what you're going for as far as a look. The other thing is good, if you really want to, we can go into here and we can go to creature. And this is where you kind of start experimenting. You can grab some shell looking detail. We can go to, where is it at? Ceramic, where's it, skin? Human? Maybe it's human. We'll see what human does. So some of these could be good for like a little bit of a flesh. That looks like rotten flesh, right? We're gonna drag that in there. It's gonna override it, but you can tell it to just apply it in certain areas. Now he looks like a Freddy Krueger kind of monster. And all these are adjustable. You kind of get in there a little bit of that, like he was battle worn or burned at the end of your story or your movie. So we can go in here and we can apply back to here. If you want to start painting back in, and there's more tools in here. You go to tool settings, you can do it as symmetry. You know, do both sides. You can adjust the hardness, and then you can start to paint back in here all that detail. So he's got like a little, like he's got wounded right there, right? He's injured. And then you can turn off the albedo, and then you can also push this to be just like it's a little more detail right there. So this is a little bit what I wanted to kind of show where I'm going with. I'm probably going to try to run this, I guess I'm going to have to run it separately. I know it's eating resources. I can feel it on the machine, recording and doing this at the same time, and the model's going to only get heavier until I get those textures. So I'll probably do that first, but I just wanted to show where I'm at, what's going on. You can see that. Look at that. It's pretty neat. Even his face, you can do his face if you want to give him some more detail. It looks like right here the cavity didn't touch all the way, so that's something else. So let's address that. I do want to do this real quick. Ooh, look at that. See, real quick, and you got stuff in there. So let's turn that off. Turn this off. Let's go back to the bake. Let's see what happened there. So this is something that's going to happen. You're never going to get a perfect bake right off the bat. Well, I say never. You will get a perfect bake, but look at this. It bloated, and so it clipped onto itself. So what we want to do, we can push this back into itself and kind of keep it from doing that and see what it does. See if it fixes. If it doesn't, we just bake it again. So bake, and it processes. I probably should have made a smaller map so just for these examples. If it doesn't fix, I can always fix it kind of post. It's kind of a pain to do, but you can do it, because once I bake it, I can always go back and reapply what I need to anyway. And I'll probably be texturing that way with a little bit higher details and everything else, so I can kick out. So it's kicking up this one and that one. Let's see if it corrects anything. If it doesn't, oh well. Don't forget to save. I didn't save anything here. I just wanted to show where I'm going with on this, and probably doesn't help to have that up. I'm going to close this, save some resources. Close in Blender. Save changes, sure. I can feel the computer get a little slower, so maybe that helped a little bit. See, it went away. So what it was doing was the cage was overlapping, and this is something I like that you can do. Is you can actually modify that cage. You can paint it. You can go to paint offset, and then paint in here where you want it to be a little bit bigger and stuff. So that's pretty cool. Your color value will be up and down depending on what you want. That's another neat thing. So turn that off, and now we're back to where we kind of a little more. So yeah, that's about most of the lunch that I got to show for this model. Just wanted to kind of let you know where I'm going with this. I've got it exported. I'm gonna do one more export with the higher detailed mesh so I can get a little bit more of that detail in here, and we can also kick this up, I think. Let's see if we got another. No, I don't. I was gonna see if I had another way to get that detail a little more softer, but we could also add in subsurface scattering to bake out and give to the other, you know, to Blender or whatever I plan on going to. So yeah, there's a lot of different stuff you can do. So just wanted to show where I'm at, where I'm going, and most of the process. So appreciate you watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Later.